Welcome to another podcast of We're in Theology. It is Pastor Arthur here, and today we're going to focus on science, and because this is Aquarian Theology is a special ministry that focuses, that is affirming, progressive, open, inclusive, and pro-science. And that one you don't find a lot of discussion about science in very many Christian outlets for a reason. Most religious outlets tend to be anti-science. And some reasons are valid why they are anti-science. It's because the valid reasons are sometimes science is very complicated. So not everybody can understand science that quickly. I mean, even when you look at it in school, not everybody gets straight A's in sciences. So why? It's because they are not easy to understand. So sometimes because of that, most people would rather teach people things that they can easily absorb, and religion does that. But the problem of that is it causes a high population of ignorant people, and these ignorant people can affect how a country is run. And so you find the country is affected by the ignorance of the people when it comes to voting. Because if the people who vote are so anti-science, majority of them are anti-science, guess what? They will pick anti-science leaders who will make anti-science policies and who will retrograde the country. But if you had a population that had many straight A's and understand science, then you are going to have leaders who are pro-science or more scientific driven, and therefore they will be able to do projects, get progressive projects. So I feel the place where you need to solve is not necessarily is the education system, and we need a system that creates as many straight A's as possible. In my view, some people think that no, there are some people who do not understand things, so you don't have to force them to understand. And they could be right. You know, like some people are vocational, more vocational than academic. And so you give them vocational jobs. But I am a believer of making science simple for everybody. And the way you make science simple is for you to understand the science. So when you understand science, you can tell somebody, explain it to him simply. And I feel for church people, now is the time to be enlightened in science. We are entering the Aquarian age and leaving the Piscean age of ignorance, and that was just based on religious views. In the Aquarian age, we are more scientific, we are more enlightened. I mean, why should you not know how a phone is made? Why shouldn't you not know? And why should you not know how the world operates? You should know. Why should you not know? Knowledge is power. And so this is your spot, your hub for getting enlightenment and knowledge. So today we're going to do a very short topic, and there'll be very many science topics. This will be the science playlist, and we just want to discuss about genetics, how genetics has revolutionized the world of biological sciences and every science in the world. Now, what are genetics? Genetics is the study of genes. And what are genes? Genes are the smallest unit. In the past, we used to say genes, the cell is the smallest unit of life. But I believe the smallest unit of life is a gene. And this is the basic physical functional unit of heredity. And a gene is made up of a long strand of DNA containing, it has so many molecules. And these molecules have chemicals in them. And we have genetic traits as human beings. We have eye color, number of limbs, blood type, risk to specific diseases, and then all of these mutations. So we are made up of genes, much as we are made up of cells, because cells also have the chromosomes are also cells. So I don't believe that the cell is the smallest unit. I believe the gene is the most fundamental unit in the body. And why am I focusing on this? Because before, in the past, human beings didn't think about genes that well. Though surprisingly, the book of Genesis, the first 4 letters make up the word gene. And it's very interesting that the book of Genesis is called Gene. Genesis. And genetics is a study of the gene. Because in Genesis, the story is about the origin of man and generation. And generation is also the word gene. Gene is found in the word generation. So, genes, we are always passing down our genes. That is what Genesis is trying to say. That how the first man was Adam, who passed down his genes to his sons, who passed down their genes to their sons, and it has been going on for years and years till today. So we're basically, genetically, we are living in cycles, genetic cycles that have been taking place for thousands of years. And right now, the greatest thing has happened in the genetic science field, and that is stem cell reproduction and stem cell science. It is changing the world as we know it biologically. Why? People are able to cure diseases because of genetics. We have studied genetics, and now we know, because there are some diseases like blindness and deafness, as I was saying in the other posts, are caused by genetics, by our gene makeup. And even right now, they have found gay people have there's a dominant gene expression. They have 2 genes are found out that is very common in gay people. So, meaning homosexuality is natural. Of course it is natural, but now it is confirmed not only to be natural, but also to be genetic. And that's very wonderful news. So, all of these things are happening. This genetic revolution is happening, but I find it so sad that most of religion ignores what is happening in the science world. And we want to be a different type of faith channel. We want to be a faith channel that appreciates science and strives its best to understand what is happening in the scientific world. And what is our basis? Even in the scriptures, there is a very strong basis for that. We read, as we've said, we shared the word from Daniel, and God says he gave knowledge to Daniel for all learning. All learning. That means all sciences. And that means knowledge is not a bad thing. And today we also want to, we won't talk about it now, but we can touch on it. We'll do a series on it. Is what happened in the Garden of Eden. What tree was in the Garden of Eden? It was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And in our next post, in our previous post, we said, what is knowledge? What is science? Science is knowledge. That's what Merriam-Webster defines science. It is knowledge of something. So, the tree was a tree of science. It was a tree of wisdom. And these guys ate from this tree. And when you read the story in Genesis chapter 3, it's very interesting what Satan says to them. And actually not even Satan, is the serpent that told the woman. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So, who is a god? A god is somebody who knows good and evil. That is who a god is. And what tree were they talking about? This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The science of good and evil. So what does this mean? Knowledge has two sides. Well, right now we're in the stage of non-duality, because what is good to some people is bad to others, and what is bad to others is good to some people. So because of that situation, even Genesis is a bit off track time-wise. We have left this plane of duality. But the fact is, there was, in this time zone, there was what you call knowledge of good and knowledge of evil. Knowledge, science of good and science of evil. Knowing good things and knowing bad things. So this was what the tree was about. And when you read the Bible, when that happened, God said something, and behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So what is happening here? God is saying, oh my God, these guys have become as one of us. So what happened is, when Adam and Eve ate of this fruit, they became like God. And God, for a weird reason, prevented them from eating from the tree of life, because now they will live forever, and they had the knowledge of God and life. So what do we get from here? Number one, we get one thing that is very important. Don't lose this. God did not take away the knowledge Adam and Eve got from the tree. And if you want to be, you can twist it and say that women ate it first, so they got more clever. They got more clever than Adam did. They got more interesting ideas because they ate it first. And that's a very funny, it depends what you think about it. But no, both of them ate, so both of them became knowledgeable. Now, the fact is, they became knowledgeable, and now if they ate from the tree of life, they would live forever, and man would be like God, would be equals to God. So to stop that, God chased them away from the garden. But he didn't take away the knowledge they had. The knowledge they had. So, this is just part one of genetics. And I was trying to support the need of science. Science is not bad. And knowledge is not bad. However, as according to the Bible, there is knowledge of good and evil. I mean, a clever scientist who knows physics can make a gun which does very bad things. It kills people. But that same brain can make a car which serves people. And it's a weird thing. That's why I am in the world of non-duality. I've left the world of good and evil. And it's a very hard topic to talk about. So even genetics, people would say there are good genes and bad genes. That's why it's wrong to say there are good genes and bad genes. I am for diversity, genetic diversity, rather than genetic duality. Because genetic duality is what created eugenics. Eugenics was what happened in Nazi Germany. They got to know about gene disorders and genetic disorders, and they got to know that human beings do not have the same genetic makeup. And so they got to know Jewish people were not the same as European. So they used that notion because they saw blonde people and blue-eyed people were not the same as the dark-eyed people, the brown-eyed people, the Jewish. So what happened? The Nazi Germany used eugenics to clear the Jewish populations and to clear also LGBTQ persons, especially homosexual men, because they are also genetically predisposed to be homosexual. And so that is what happened. It was eugenics versus malgenics, so-called. And what we are trying to say, we are not propagating eugenics or malgenics. We are propagating genetic diversity, whereby there are diverse genetic makeups. Humanity is made up of very diverse gene makeups, and some of these gene makeups have issues like they get blindness, they have there's albinism. All of these things are just genetic diversity that is part of nature, because nature is diverse. And please remember, this is the channel of diversity. Diversity is the key, is the principal, because everything is diverse. When you look at the plants, they are diverse plants. When you look at the animals, diverse animals. When you look at humans, diverse humans. Everything is diverse. Everything is unique. And we are going to be studying that. So we are so happy with what's happening in the genetic world. And we're going to talk more about scientific discoveries. And we'll try and simplify them for you who is out there, a person of faith, but you want to understand science, what's happening in the science world. Because we've told you, knowledge is not bad. God planted a tree of knowledge, of good and evil. Why did he plant it if it was a bad tree? Secondly, in Daniel chapter 1, God gave Daniel and his friends all knowledge and wisdom in all learning. He did not discriminate and say, you're not supposed to understand mathematics, you're not supposed to understand art, you're not supposed to understand music. No, everything that can be learned, he gave the knowledge. So let's grab on and let's dig in and let's know.